Hey, welcome to another episode of Bring It to the Floor. This is we call it a podcast, but in these days of social media, it's some content that we're creating that expresses our love, joy, admiration for the world of dance. My regular co-host, Danny G, is, I want to say, unfortunately, she's traveling, but if there's anyone I think probably deserves a break this time of year, it's probably everyone who's working at the Joyce. 48 weeks of performances throughout the year. It's absolutely amazing. We are talking, if we're talking about the Joyce Theater, and we're talking about people who probably know the theater inside and out, our guest this week is Linda Shelton, who is the executive director of the Joyce Theater. And Linda, by the way, I just because I'm a guy who makes a lot of mistakes, I wanted to check. I wanted to make sure. I jumped on the Joyce website, which, by the way, to everybody, it's joyce.org. I would encourage everyone to jump online and find it. But when you go to the masthead of the Joyce, Linda, you're right on top, executive director of the Joyce Theater. So heavy is the head, I could imagine, sometimes that wears the crown. But I got to imagine probably this week and next week, you're feeling pretty good as you and I speak. We're right in the middle of your season-ending finale, which is the Joyce Theater Ballet Festival. I believe it runs through August 14th, and this has been curated by the one of one, Misty Copeland. Linda, first, welcome to the show. And number two, how's the festival going so far?
Going very well. I think Misty had a plan, and with these kind of things, they don't exist. So you're just taking a lot of risk. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting in the theater for opening night and there it is on stage. To me, it's still, even though I've been here for a very long time, it's like magic on the opening night that the curtain actually does go up. And that everybody is doing exactly what they're supposed to do. And in this case, Misty, her vision was to upload Black and brown dancers that maybe don't have the opportunity to be on a stage like the Joyce, or, maybe not any stage at all, or be part of this festival. And I think she's done a brilliant job with that, 'cause I've seen some things that I haven't seen before. And then also to see dancers that are dancing new things, like for the very first time. And I can tell you what my favorites are if you ask me.
You know what? You've taken me off the spot, because I always want to ask favorites. And I do think art, and when we work around people who are fabulous, they're like our children. But there are moments, there are things that happen where you go, oh, God, that moved my heart in a special way. So thank you. This is amazing. I would love to hear what your favorites are.
Well, there's a piece choreographed by Jose Limon. Now, he has been dead for many, many years, but he had choreographed this piece in 1961. It's called Sonata for Two Cellos. And he danced it back then. And Desmond Richmond, who is a beautiful dancer, he's now the co-artistic director of Complexions Contemporary Dance. Yeah. He danced it. I think he told me it was about a dozen years ago. And now it's being danced again by this gentleman. His name is Victor Abreu, and he's a dancer with New York City Ballet. So seeing someone like Victor dance this piece, I mean, he just I don't think he would have the opportunity to dance it at New York City Ballet. It's a solo, but then there are two cellos, and probably not going to happen in that setting. So we have it. And just to see that, that piece, it's never seen. And he just does such a beautiful job. I was almost in tears watching it, because I could see Jose Limon in it. I could see it.
Yeah. Real quick about Mr. Abreu, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing names or things like that. But again, if you go to the Joyce website, 2022 award for dance, the Clive Barnes Award, also the
Yes.
2025 Janice Levin recipient. I got to imagine those are prestige awards. And
Yes.
I think I saw Complexions at the Joyce, if I'm not mistaken. So, way to
Yep.
bring it all together. To have a company and a piece that you have familiarity with, bringing it to life with a young performer who is clearly on his way. And as you say, bringing you to tears. Again, that makes my heart sore because that's how I think of the Joyce Theater is
Yeah.
going and sitting and just being moved and moved. Beautiful. Any others
Well,
that stand
there's
out to you?
another piece by Kyle Abraham, and it's called
Mm.
Show Pony,
Mm.
and it was created in 2018. And this time it's being danced by another New York City ballet dancer, Taylor Stanley.
Mm.
And I don't think this guy has bones in his body. He's just so fluid. And I've seen women do this piece before. It's kind of, I would say it's like a gala piece in a way because it really
Yeah.
shows a dancer, to their fullest. But then to see what Taylor brings to it, it's just so fluid and he moves so beautifully. And that's what it's supposed to be, kind of tongue in cheek about a dancer being a show pony.
Uh,
That's what they are a lot of times. That's what you might think of.
yeah,
So those are two favorites.
well, I can only imagine sometimes in the wrong hands. Yes, just go out there and
Right.
perform is the feeling.
Correct.
You're
Yeah.
talking about Mr. Stanley, and by the way, I think you mentioned he was a dancer at the New York City Ballet. He's the
Yes.
principal dancer, if I'm not
Yes.
mistaken, at the New York City
He's
Ballet.
retiring though. He's retiring this year. Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing the talent that you are able to bring together, the shows that you are able to bring together. It breaks my heart. I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it to New York in time to see this, but certainly when you talk about fluid dancing, I love that kind of. I mean, there really is, and you see a lot of this in the TikTok space and things like that, where there's a lot of fluid dance, and that's one of the things. What I really appreciate about what you're doing from my perspective with Ballet Festival, and you talk about bringing people who are outside the prevailing culture, who may not, even in New York, even in a city as progressive as New York, may not have these opportunities. But when I look at how the show has been curated, there really is something and someone for everyone there. And it's not just saying, okay, we're going to bring black and brown or queer people or individuals like that. We're going to take the concept of ballet and say, hey, ballet is not just for, old men like me. It is
Exactly.
youthful and it is beautiful. Well,
Yes.
now, Linda, you didn't have to say exactly when I said old man, but I know what you're saying in terms of we want to bring other demographics in.
Yes.
I say we, but you guys are doing the heavy lifting into the Ballet Festival, into dance always, and you all are doing that year in and year out. Before we move on, I do want to talk a little bit about other things that are coming up at the Joyce. Again, I just want to say very quickly that Ballet Festival, again, I may have said the 14th, it is actually running to Sunday, August 16th. So you will be able to hear our voices long before then if you're in the New York area. And frankly, if you still want to get some summer travel in, I would highly recommend getting to New York City and getting to the Joyce Theater to be able to see Ballet Festival. Again, this is curated by Misty Copeland. Linda, I've been a fan and a patron of the Joyce Theater, like I said, maybe about 12 years now. And I don't know, I can't say if you were there at that time. I think I met you first much later than that. But I am curious for you, your journey to the Joyce, before the Joyce. And I'm very curious for you because, and again, I say this as someone who loves dance, but I really find the Joyce's year-round curation to be very particular in the best possible way. I'm curious how you work with your team to plan out that year, to bring in some amazing talent, not just from around the metro area or America, from around the world. So a lot there, but please, if you can, your journey and the teamwork that it takes to put on these amazing shows.
Yeah. Well, yes, I was here when you first appeared on our doorstep, because I've been here a little over 30 years.
Okay.
So it's been a long run, but I still love it. Still, as I was saying before, magic on the stage a couple nights ago. Something special is going on here. I studied dance growing up and in college. And at some point, I came to the conclusion that I could be more valuable on the administrative side than as a dancer. It just seemed to me that there were so many dancers in New York that wanted jobs, and that I was just discovering this thing called arts administration. And that was so appealing. For some reason, back then, I thought corporate sponsorship was something that was so attractive, like matching up, corporations with an art form that I care deeply about. So I switched over into arts administration and haven't looked back. And I've been lucky enough to work with some amazing dancers. My first kind of real job was with the choreographer Twyla Tharp, and got the opportunity to work very closely with her on some important projects back then. A piece called In the Upper Room, which I still think is her masterpiece. But I also got to learn from her. And, sometimes she's not easy, but she doesn't demand anything of anyone else that she's not willing to do herself.
Linda, I got to say, I'm shocked to hear that people who work around Broadway dance entertainment can sometimes be slightly difficult. We're not going to allow that in Hollywood. I will tell you that right now. We will shut that down. Please continue.
So after that, I worked for I did some freelance work, and then I was the general manager at the Joffrey Ballet. And wow. I always watched that company growing up. That was the company that performing at City Center. And so I really had a love of their repertory and everything they did. And I was their general manager for a couple of years. But part of my job was to move them out of New York City, because there are 3 ballet companies in New York, and the Joffrey was always considered the third one. And to support a ballet company in New York at the level and standard that they should be supported, it just wasn't going to happen in New York. So the board and the staff looked at it like a baseball team. Where could we go where they don't already have a world-class ballet company, where there would be the audience, the support? And after looking at a number of cities, including Los Angeles, they landed on Chicago. And they moved to Chicago. They are doing so well there.
Yes.
And they're a world-class company. They have support. They have a building. They have a school. They have everything they need there in Chicago. And I didn't want to go with them. So that's when I came to the Joyce. That's been my journey here. And the way that I work with our team is that, I have the artistic background, so I can oversee the programming, but I also have to be responsible on the finance side, because we run a business. It's a small business, but nonetheless, you still have to pay for everything that you buy. We're a nonprofit, so we are exempt from some taxes, not everything. But still, you have to pay for things. You don't get a free ride. And if you aren't serious about that, then you can't present things 48 weeks a year. And our board respects that. Our donors respect that. And I think that's why we've been able to do what we do for this amount of time. And we can take risk, and we can add new programs, which we do. And that's kept it fun for me and exciting over the years.
Sometimes I don't like to use the word artist, but I think for someone who comes from a dance background or any background where they're thinking, I'm going to be center stage. I'm going to be part of what's going on. It can sometimes be difficult to go, hey, maybe I need a shift. Maybe I need to do something else. And what I appreciate is that while you may have shifted from your first desire, you have put everything else into making sure that there's an environment that's professional, as you say, that's well maintained, so that when the companies come in, when the dancers arrive, they have to worry about their primary objective, which is entertaining that audience in a way, to your point, that they're not just, dancing ponies, but that they're people showing the art. And I can say again, as someone who has been to the Joyce, has enjoyed shows there, and has humbly supported shows there, I don't know, again, no disrespect to any other company anywhere or any other performance space anywhere. I think the Joyce is a cut above. You talk about a couple of things, Linda. You talk about the process of putting shows together and what it takes behind the scenes, as well as, 48 weeks of performances. We're living in challenging times, and I'm wondering for you, managing that 48-week schedule in terms of the audience, in terms of engagement, but also in the world we live in, getting visas is sometimes more and more difficult than it has to be under some circumstances. Traveling, getting companies in. Prices are up. A lot of people who have great hearts are even concerned about donating and supporting. How do you balance all those administrative things to, again, get the work done behind the scenes to do the show for the folks?
I have a great team here, including Danny, who is the one out there looking for new things all over the world. We have a great producer on our staff. His name is Ross, and he's also looking at projects that the Joyce can develop from soup to nuts, from the beginning, from a kernel of an idea to getting it on stage. We have the best production department and stagehands in the country, if not the world. I mean, they are focused on dance. They know how to get everything on stage. They know every trick in the book. They're really committed to dance, and their hearts are in it. And, I'll be having a conversation with the carpenter here about, something that he saw of Merce Cunningham's, and we'll have an in-depth conversation about that. Yeah. And I don't know that you find that in every behind the scenes worker. For some people, it's just a job. But our marketing team is great. And everybody works pretty well together. I'm quite fortunate to have this group of people. It doesn't always happen like this, so I'm knocking on wood at the moment. One of our stagehands gave me this, knocking wood.
That's when you have a team who gets you. That's when you have a team who gets you.
Yeah. And I think we all understand that our job isn't to be front and center. It's to make the connection between the audience. Like, we have to get that audience here. We have to convince them that it's better to be in our theater, in our audience, than watching something on television. No offense, John.
Listen, you see me at the Joyce. So when I make my choice, I make my choice. Yep. And by the way, one of the things I really want to express, and I never want to overly compare things, but one of the things I really hope young people understand, because young people are falling more deeply in love with sport all the time, but in particular with athletes, because they recognize the grind and the glory, what it takes to be the best, and that focus. But I think also young people are starting to realize what it takes to be a team, not just on a court or on a field, but to have an entire organization like the Dodgers, like the Lakers, like the Knicks, like OKC, that are like, hey, we got to build to win. And so when you talk about your team, where it's like you can talk to the carpenter, you can talk to an usher, and they're not just there because it's a job. And by the way, in the world we live in, I am not dissing having a job, but also people who are, hey, Linda, I saw that performance and I loved it, but what about, and oh, remember when so-and-so came through? So that's a credit to you. That's a credit to your team. And it's certainly a credit, again, to the performances that I've been able to see at the Joyce. Hey, Linda, before we let you go, I do want to talk about the performances at the Joyce, because you say the season is ending. And even for me, and I certainly have not been through your season, but I get that feeling, and there's like a deep breath. But your season begins September 16th. So the ending and the beginning are very close. It is beginning again with, and we talked about this a bit, The Surge, which is an ode to Sinead O'Connor. For folks who are young, it's hard to believe some young folks may not know the name. I think fierce is a word we use around women sometimes because it sounds tough, but I think sometimes people outside the prevailing culture, you don't get a choice about being fierce or resilient or things like that. Right. I think Sinead O'Connor, again, like Misty Copeland, is just a 101 who spoke her mind, said what she said. She was not controversial. Other people brought controversy to some of the things she said. I can't imagine choreographing necessarily, but I'm not a choreographer, to a life like that. So please tell us a little bit about this show, The Surge. The choreographer and the director, Sonia, I'm going to mispronounce her last name, Hea. But this show sounds amazing.
So we worked with Sonia before. She did a project with a company from Cuba that we work with and that we help manage. She created a piece actually for the LA Music Center. And we got to know Sonia through that project. And so it's not uncommon for a choreographer to approach us. It happens quite regularly. Everybody has an idea. And especially independent choreographers, which I see more and more of these days, they don't want their own dance company. They want to do project to project. And Sonia, she did Moulin Rouge on Broadway and got the Tony for it. She approached us. She's kind of obsessed with Sinead O'Connor's music. And so she approached us 3 years ago and said, I'd love to do this project. She was just so moved by everything about Sinead. And I said, sure, as soon as we clear the music rights, then you can go into the studio and we'll start raising money. And so we worked on that probably for 2 years and finally got enough of the music rights cleared that she had enough material to go into the studio. She, it was her choice to cast women over the age of 40. So it's all women. And talk about fierce. I think that's the best description I could come up with for these women that are in this. They were all dancers, still are, but in their own right when they were younger. And now they are bringing every bit of energy they have. It premiered in Manchester in the UK last month. And what a huge success. So I'm very excited for New York audiences to see it. We also got the rights to her audio book. And so there are snippets of Sinead because she is reading it. And to hear that within this piece, it really ties it all together in a beautiful way.
Yeah, this sounds absolutely amazing. And it's, I know with dance, it is so athletic that, yes, you get into your 30s, some things start to ebb, but it is kind of weird to hear like, oh, hey, dancers in their 40s. It's something that someone actually thinks about and that becomes part of the aesthetic. But again, that's why I say it takes a genius individual to be able to even begin to, I think, attack something like Sinead O'Connor, her body of work and what she meant. That sounds absolutely amazing and a phenomenal way to kick off your new season. That is going to be running September 16th through Sunday, September 27th at the Joyce Theater in New York City. Linda, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. And I really will say just again how much I appreciate as someone who's fallen truly deeply in love with dance as an art form, as an expression, with everything that happens. And also, generally, as someone who works behind the camera, appreciating what it takes to put things together in a way that is just seamless for the people coming in and out. And it's an amazing, amazing experience. I've been speaking with Linda Shelton, who is the executive director of the Joyce Theater. Again, if you are within the sound of our voice, you can still catch Ballet Festival that was curated by Misty Copeland. It's running to Sunday, August 16th, also at the Joyce Theater in New York City. Linda, I cannot wait to see you again in person at the Joyce. Thank you so much for joining us on Bring It to the Floor. Thank you, Linda.
My pleasure. Thanks.